Good morning, day 297. I've got the sun, bright. So I'm gonna walk kind of towards where I might have a little more shade. We got calm water today, calm air. It's nice. So, are you asleep in your own life? That is my title today. It's a question. And it's the question that is asked of us in Ephesians chapter 5. I'm going to focus on that. And he specifically starts talking about some lifestyle choices. And he is Paul. Paul is talking about lifestyle choices. And specifically, he goes into wine is one of the things. So, I couldn't resist talking about a subject that is near and dear to my heart and part of my journey and part of where I was asleep in my own life. It started off pretty innocent, not a big deal. That's how it starts for most of us. Wine in particular is, especially here in America, but I know also across the pond and in many other parts of the world, it's just part of the culture. It's part of what you do when you're an adult. It's everywhere. And we are encouraged. As a matter of fact, off in a lot of European countries, they start to train children's palates early by mixing wine with Coke and different things so that they will acquire the taste for it. And even that right there is a clue. The fact that you have to acquire a taste for something. But we do very quickly because it lights our brain up. We get immediate dopamine hit. It makes us feel good, that one drink. But there's a lot of people that can't just have the one and be done. And before you know it, because it's an addictive substance and because of the power of the human brain and how we develop habits, it sometimes is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. You want wine o'clock or beer o'clock or beer 30, whatever you call it. It's our permission slip to shift into the evening happy hour. There was a woman named Rachel Hart who is in sort of this space of self-development and habits, and specifically talks a lot about alcohol, who did a research project and did a podcast about the development of happy hour. Like it was, in the Industrial Revolution, to give workers something to look forward to at the end of the workday. We used to have tea time. It's been a part of human tradition to want to sort of have that transition in the late afternoon and to evening. Women traditionally had tea time, and I don't even think that was just a woman thing. Maybe, that's afternoon tea was to serve that purpose. But really, that's how alcohol started to get so celebrated and became a mark of celebration of the end of the day. And I'm oversimplifying it because I'm only got a couple of minutes here. But it is one area of life where we tend to fall asleep willfully. And I'm so glad we're in a time right now where people are starting to wake up. And we realize how heavily we've been marketed to, especially women. Oh my gosh. And we've been sold on a bill of goods that we can't even be a mom. We can't even go to daytime mom events without needing mommy juice. Rosé all day. And why, as a section of the population, why women are experiencing alcoholism at higher rates than even men right now. Scary. Our caretakers, our people, our nurturers. And it's marketing. We are being sold a bill of goods. But this is not something new to us. It's here in the Bible. People have been struggling with this since the dawn of time comes back. Oh, there we go. Sorry for that little interruption. But we've been struggling with this since the dawn of time. And in my family, like, it's just what you did. The wine bottles were always out on the counter at a certain time of the day. The beer, Grandpa would make his Rob Roy, often take it in the car with him when we would go out to dinner. Like, I just didn't know any better. Ignorance is bliss. So even though I was asleep to it in my own life, I didn't know I was asleep. Like, right? When you're asleep, you don't know that you're asleep. One of my favorite coaches and authors, she wrote This Naked Mind. Her name is Annie Grace. She uses a burning house analogy. Like, when you're asleep in a burning house, you don't know. But then you wake up and then you know. And then you can't unknow that the house is burning. But the tendency is people want to try to go back to a state of ignorance once they've woken up, or go back to a state of asleepness. Because when you're awake to truths and lifestyle choices and the effects and the consequences, the only way that you can sometimes live life, because the cognitive dissonance is so painful, that divided heart, the divided mind, like when you still engage in lifestyle practices, even when you know how bad they are for you and how destructive, but you're in the pitcher plant, you're there. Hey, you're there, and you can't unknow it. You can't go back to sleep. But many of us try. We literally try to knock ourselves out. Well, maybe it's not really that bad. It's like a daily amnesia battle when you are in the Vino flytrap. It's like you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And then you get then 5 o'clock rolls around and your brain is going, whoop, it's time, let's do it. And by then, maybe you've had enough coffee and awake hours of the day that you're like, it wasn't really that bad. One more day. And then there you are again. And the internal, then you shift all of that pain internally for those that know what they're doing to their bodies. And whether yours is actually alcohol, or maybe yours is overeating the fried foods and the ice cream and just eating beyond what you know your body needs. I'm in that one too, by the way. I fell asleep in all the areas of my life. I was just like, YOLO. Because is what I grew up with. Everything, food and wine made everything better. Yeah. And all of my relatives, except for one immediate, they're dead. They're dead. I'm only 50. Think about that. My dad died at 56. Both my youngest uncle died of alcohol-related suicide a couple of years ago at the age of 51. My other uncle, his brother, drug and alcohol-related suicide as well. And he was in his, I want to say late 30s, early 40s at the time. Both grandparents gone. And I can remember my grandmother occasionally buying the free bottles of wine. And I'm not trying to disparage them at all. I have so much compassion. But this is part of why I'm so passionate about it, because this was a generational cycle. And this is what happens. Kids will listen to what you say. They'll listen, maybe, but they'll do what you do. This is how our habits not only take on a life of their own in our own lives, but they literally take on a life in their own life, in the lives of our children and those that we are in close contact with, that we're role modeling life for. And this is the generational curses that the Bible is talking about, and why we all are leaders and why we have such a heavy responsibility, whether we like it or not. And it's fine. And many people fall asleep to it. They're like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. That everybody's responsible for their own life. And that is true. But why make it harder for people? This was my internal cognitive struggle and heart struggle. It wasn't just a divided mind. It became a divided heart. Like, how can I, in good conscience, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was looking at my teenagers and going, at the time when I decided to really own it and put the bottle down and work on this habit and addiction. I didn't like even saying that word. I'm very prideful. But really, I'm like, if I don't want my kids to have to struggle with this. Can I fully control it? Absolutely not. They are going to make their own choices. But a lot of what I was teaching them was by example. That, not a lot, 100%. I was teaching them by example that this is what adults do. It's all great. And not only were they learning it at home, but everywhere out in the world. And it's hard. It's lonely to be the one. I felt the analogy that came to my mind this morning was like, kids on the playground and you get in, like, let's say you get in trouble. I felt like I was the little kid in trouble, relegated to sit in the corner, watching everybody play and have fun, like poor me. And then I found out, like, there's a lot of us. So there's a lot of us. And we gather in the corner, and now we have our own parties. And it's a lot more fun. And I wake up with energy. 1 cup of coffee gets me going. I don't need just time plus coffee. Life is just so much different. Life is so much different and so much better when you're awake to it. Now, are there still some things I'm still asleep to? Absolutely. That's part of being human. But once you wake up and you know better, you've got to do better. Otherwise, you're going to be really convicted inside. If you have any kind of moral compass or care about others, and this realization that people are watching and learning from you and what you do. Words are hollow. Our lives are living. We are the living word, every single one of us. So what word are you sending? Everything has energy to it. And you can talk a good game, but what is your life reflecting? I know, don't shoot the messenger. This is hard stuff. Like I had to look in the mirror too. And that's why I call my sort of signature program, Own It. Own it. You have to own it. And that's what God asks us to do, literally. Like, wake up. Wake up. And even if you choose to stay asleep or you are asleep, once you have awareness of the law of the harvest and what you're doing, you've got the consequences of it no matter what. So what do you want? What do you want your life to speak for? What do you want your legacy to mean? What do you want to know that will give you peace at night and allow you to sleep deeply with peace, knowing that you played full out, you did your best? And it doesn't ask us to be perfect. We can't, because we're humans. But we always are capable of doing our best and being aligned with what we know at the time and living from that aligned place of integrity. That's one of my keywords, integrity. And I can do that and still be asleep in some areas of my life. I'm doing my best to wake up and make changes and live this beautiful life. I watched I saw a Facebook post this morning where there's science on this, you guys, where they took photos of snowflakes and all the words that if the snowflakes heard the words love, peace, harmony, like words like that, they were beautiful crystal snowflakes. They could see this under a microscope. And when they started hearing words like You're a fool. What are you doing? Like things that had bad energy to them, they became corrupted and blobs. But as soon as one became a blob and it had that negative energy being spoken over it, and then it moved back over into positive energy, its shape came back. Think about that. If a water molecule can be affected by the energy and by the truth of goodness, and we're made up, we're like, what, 90% water? And the energy and the spirits that are attached to things. And Paul, in the final chapter of Ephesians, does talk about the unseen powers and spirits that we're up against. This is that energy of negativity that we have within ourselves, that we speak over ourselves, and that even our lot that then show up in our lives and cause us to do all these things and be examples. And then we literally pass it on to the next generation and to people within our spheres and circles. When we normalize reckless, asleep behavior, and it's painful. It's painful. And I know that you're in pain. We're all in pain. And it's easy to use that as an excuse to defer your responsibility for your life and make choices. And that's how we do it on a daily basis. This is how it happens. I deserve it today. It's okay. What does it matter? And then day by day, the compound effect kicks in, the law of the harvest. And then before we know it, and then it can seem so overwhelming to change. Like, how am I going to do this? Been there, done that. And how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You just start walking, start chomping, and doing your best, because you can always do that no matter what's going on in life and where you are in a pitcher plant or whatever pitcher plant you're in, whether it's alcohol, food, other behavior and lifestyle choices that are not adding to your aliveness, that they're life eaters, life destroyers. Anyway, all right. Rise and shine. Great message today, right? It really is a good message. Message of personal responsibility and being awake in your own life. Nothing better. It's the way we were meant to live. All right. Talk to you later.